everything we're doing in the session, we're trying to add value, add value, add value. One way to add value is make a great note so that the next time a trainer, you or a different trainer works with that client, they are prepared. So getting that note in there is getting a note on that and typing it in front of them adds value as well, because the client feels so incredibly listened to and they feel like, wow, I'm literally watching the adjustment being made so that there's synergy between this session and the next session that I'm going to do with another trainer. If it adds value for the next trainer, include it. Do not include it if it doesn't add value.
Yeah.
So don't add a note that doesn't add value to that session. I think most fitness professionals don't understand that you have to call the lead repeatedly. You don't send one email and just say, I don't want to bother them. You call them repeatedly. That's how you produce the best results. Everyone always asks, what are the trends? What are the trends? What are the trends? Stop asking that question. Instead, you should say, what is not going to change? And I'm certain of it over the next 15 years. That's where you should build your business.
Lawrence Snell here, and welcome back to High Intensity Business, your one-stop shop for growing your HIIT business and fueling your passion for high-intensity training. Before we dive into today's episode, please grab your free PDF playbook, Referral Machine, the 4-step referral blueprint for your HIIT business. You can download that now over at highintensitybusiness.com/ref. You'll also get a full-length video training with our guest today, Luke Carlson, CEO of Discover Strength, on the best proven practices for driving referrals in your business. Just go to highintensitybusiness.com/ref to download that now. This is episode 471. I'm joined by Luke Carlson, CEO and founder of Discover Strength. And today we are doing a Q&A on all things related to building your business. For those who aren't aware, Discover Strength is a Minnesota-based strength training studio built on the principle that busy people don't have time to waste on workouts that don't work or exercise that doesn't work even. Discover Strength delivers 30-minute strength training workouts twice a week with exercise physiologists. They help their clients look and feel their best in a fraction of the time. Discover Strength has over 35 locations open or in development across the United States. Luke, welcome back to the podcast. Great to see you again.
Lawrence, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to join you, and thank you for continuing to put out great content. I listen to every one of your episodes, and I look forward to them when they drop on Wednesdays. So thank you for the work you're doing in our field.
Thank you, Luke. I always appreciate the compliment at the start. So I've got a list of questions here, which a list of popular questions, really, that get submitted to me. People email me, etc., and I create a list on Google Sheets. I'm excited to get to some of these. So the first question is I'd love to hear your thoughts on how one trainer takes notes on the fly when training a client. This has come up a few times. Well, you're training a client and maybe they've got a new injury, or perhaps just some particular machine or exercise bothers them in a certain way, or maybe they've just got some kind of preference for something. Obviously, this, depending on whether you're using digital tools or physical tools, this is different. I suspect it's harder with digital tools, but I know that you guys do it at DS. So what's your thoughts on this? How does one do it? How does one make sure that they are, taking note of these things, but it's perhaps a point where it's like, you don't need to put too much detail down. Otherwise, it's going to really, it's just going to be kind of counterproductive and get in the way of the session. So how do you think about it?
What a wonderful question. I think the starting point is you have to be able to take down as much detail as possible during the session without letting the client feel that you are distracted from coaching and supervising the sets and the rep that you're doing. But you actually taking time to physically write it down with a pen or pencil or type it into your tablet. If you are articulating what you're capturing, the client will look at that as a value add, right? So everything we're doing in the session, we're trying to add value, add value, add value. One way to add value is make a great note so that the next time a trainer, you or a different trainer works with that client, they are prepared. So getting that note in there is getting a note on that and typing it in front of them adds value as well, because the client feels so incredibly listened to and they feel like, wow, I'm literally watching the adjustment being made so that there's synergy between this session and the next session that I'm going to do with another trainer. And so I think that it is okay to do it in front of the client as long as you're verbalizing that that's what you're doing. If your head is down and you're typing on a tablet for a while or just writing on a chart for a while, at some point, client's going to say, hey, did you notice that my last rep was great? Hey, did you notice that my last rep was sloppy? Are you paying attention? So sometimes when a client walks away briefly to get a sip of water or they're catching their breath before they move to another exercise, that's a great way to capture or a great time to capture these things. For me, it's always be as shorthand as possible. And then after the session, update those notes. So we tell all of our exercise physiologists, when you have a break in your day, so we call it NTP, a non-training period. When you have NTP in your day, you got to go back up and update your notes. And sometimes you have minimal notes. Sometimes you have no notes, but you have to recall the session and think, what can I put in the notes that are going to allow the next trainer to be effective? Now, let me just clarify that. Sometimes that's change an exercise, change an order of an exercise, eliminate an exercise and put a different exercise in there. This particular exercise is bothering the client. Well, we can definitely add something different. And then sometimes it's just make a note on how we're doing the exercise or some feedback the client shared. An example would be, hey, the client is, 3 weeks out from the marathon. Reminder, this next workout's going to be their last time they're actually doing a lower body workout. So, based on the software that you're using, if you're using Strength Portal like we do, or if it's a workout card, a physical card, just make sure that that note is clear for the next trainer. The thing that drives me crazy is when we write a note that's like not evergreen. So there'll be a note that says 6 months pregnant. And that drives me absolutely batty because I don't know when you wrote that note. What do you mean they're 6 months pregnant? You should put their due date, right? Their due date in there, not 6 months pregnant, or, knee surgery 3 months ago. What? You have to have the date of the knee surgery. So we want that level of detail. And then the other thing I should mention is not just changing an exercise. Maybe we're going to change how the exercise actually performs. Like, oh, we're doing negative only leg extension with this client. I was thinking about a client I trained on Sunday, negative only leg extension. She is wonderful with negative only leg extension. She just can't do the very bottom range of the motion because it bothers her knee. So I'm going to gap that leg extension, and I just need to make sure that I add that gap later. And then I put a little rationale for why I've gapped it for the next trainer. And I might not do that during the session, but I have to make enough of a note that I remember when my block of clients is over that I can update that.
That's a great answer. Just to go a layer deeper, I think one of the issues that I'm thinking of someone in particular who I know spends hours doing the updating after the workouts, right? And it's just becoming very time consuming for them. And I can't help but think there's more shorthand that could be used. I mean, you gave a kind of a tip there where you say it's evergreen. So you write, date, knee surgery, and then you use some kind of shorthand to make it just really clear. So obviously convey the main point, but do so in a really quick, efficient way. Do you have any tips on like shorthand? I know systems around how we make the technical work like this really quick.
Yeah, I don't have a tip on the shorthand, but our filter is always, if it adds value for the next trainer, include it. Do not include it if it doesn't add value.
Yeah.
So like had a stressful day today, not feeling good after whatever. I don't care if they're sick or ill or something like that, because when they come back in 5 days from now, they're going to feel fine. So don't add a note that doesn't add value to that session. Now, if I want to add value to that session, I can almost be proactive in the note. So something like check in on knee pain is a great note to add. And then as soon as that client tells you knee pain is not an issue anymore, and delete it so that we're not, the thing that I stress out about, that I worry about is I haven't trained a client in 4 years. I train them and I say, yeah, tell me how the right knee's feeling. And they look at me like, dude, I haven't had knee pain in 3 years. What are you talking about? And I'm like, okay, I'm looking at a very outdated note. Someone was sloppy and didn't update this note. So if it adds value to the next trainer, then add it. Otherwise, keep it out of there.
That's a great filter. You got me thinking. I think the problem actually stems from just superfluous notes, right? Like you say, people write, oh, so-and-so didn't feel well today. And probably this feeling that, we have to be writing tons of stuff. But if that's going to take away from the session and not really provide that much value, then just don't do it.
And of course, the flip side of that is if you train the clients, let's say you're in a model where there's 2 trainers in the business and you train the clients 90% of the time, the bad habit that you can get to do is you never take notes, because I always train this client. I'm going to remember what happened. Yeah. But then the other trainer does train the client. The experience is really poor because there's no notes. So we always have to take notes in a way that assume somebody else is going to train the client next time, and it's not just going to be you. Now, of course, if Doug Holland is listening to this episode, he's going to train the clients. He does not need to take those notes because he knows the next session is going to be with him, and he could probably recall all of it.
And I know solo trainers that struggle with this. So do you think that's just having the confidence that you're going to remember? Because sometimes people write down to remember, right?
Yeah.
So what do you make of that?
To me, it's just know thyself, right? Like I
Yeah,
know what I'm going to recall, and I know what I'm not going to recall. And so if I need to check in next time I train with somebody, I'm going to put it in there. And if I know there's no way I'm not going to bring this up right away, I'm totally aware that this is going on, then I just don't need to put it in there. But that's knowing yourself and knowing what you don't want to get caught off guard when the session starts. If a client feels like they have to stop you and say before the session starts, now remember, I just had this surgery. You should be beating them to that punch, saying, okay, you're 6 weeks out from the surgery. How do you feel right now? They need to, in my opinion, hear that right away when the session starts.
great. Yeah. And just to reiterate what you said there is a great way to eliminate extraneous notes is the filter is, does this add value? How does this add value to the client for the next session, for the next trainer, etc. Okay, so moving on to another question. That was great. I know I don't know why I've listed so many questions here, Lou, because I know we're going to go deep on every one, which is great. So on a recent podcast we were in together, we were talking about Hormozi, Alex Hormozi's work and some of his sort of business tactics and tips around growing the hit business, or sorry, growing a fitness business, I should say. And you made a good point, which is that, some of his tactics are kind of designed around the idea that you're going to have cancellations, right? You're going to have, book appointments and X number are going to cancel. So we need to put this much into the funnel, etc. And you're like, well, at Discover Strength, no one cancels their free workout, or we have very few people cancel. So it's kind of not that relevant. And that was intriguing to me. I would say that, when I was working with Optimus Strength, and this is probably due to the tactics we were using. Obviously, we heavily relied on bark.com to generate virtual new clients. And we did have a relatively high cancellation rate. So we were putting a lot in the funnel. And this was with, this was a high end service with a high end target market for the most part. So my question is, how have you guys succeeded in really bringing down no-shows and cancellations? And what do you think of maybe a better way of answering that might be, what do you think of the factors that really cause prospects to cancel intro workouts?
Yeah, my thinking on this has probably changed as we've continued to open locations in different markets and actually drive introductory workouts from different marketing sources. So for the longest time, I said, well, everybody shows up for their free introductory workout. And they did. I mean, it was like literally, 1 out of 100 wouldn't show up. And if they didn't show up, like something happened and they would probably reschedule it. And I think that's because so many of those introductory workouts came from referrals. And when you're referred by a friend, it's a better referral. Excuse me. It's a better intro session, right? A referral is a great intro session. Alex Hormozi has a quote where he defines selling as selling someone who is not necessarily even interested in your service, and they're not a referral. So he says you're not actually selling if it's a referral. That's too easy. And so from that standpoint, I don't know if Discover Strength has maybe sold much of anything because almost everybody's a referral. So those people definitely showed up. Now we have more and more and more leads that come from, digital marketing that we're doing. And so we are contacting those leads and we are scheduling those leads. So we call the leads, we call the leads until they tell us to stop calling them, right? That's the rule. You call until they tell you to stop. I think most fitness professionals don't understand that you have to call the lead repeatedly. You have a sales background. You understand you have to call the lead repeatedly. You don't send one email and just say, I don't want to bother them. You call them repeatedly. That's how you produce the best results. Those people are scheduling intros, and we have had a few people not show up that introductory workout. So the second part of your question, I don't know the answer to that. We've played around with things like we send a text message with a video from the exercise physiologist where they say, hey, I'm Luke. I'm going to be working with you tomorrow. It's very excited to meet you, et cetera. Now, we have automated things that go out, but when you have a name and a face in front of you, people are allegedly less likely to cancel on that. I wouldn't take that to the bank. We definitely have not systematized that. We don't know if that's the solution. So the second part of my answer is we don't know yet. We don't know.
Interesting. Yeah. Same, just because we actually started testing that exact method as well in terms of sending a personalized video with the trainer, and we had a whole system. But again, we just didn't have the sample size. Obviously, I moved on before we really had that in order to make a strong case that that was effective in driving up that show rate. Like you say, it could just be the quality of the lead. Yeah, it's fascinating. Okay, so I guess more time required to know that what matters in terms of driving that up,
Yeah,
improving
if
that.
you and I had this discussion a year from today, I'm convinced we're going to have a wonderful answer to that. And it's going to be
Yeah,
based on a large sample size and a lot of evidence and a lot of A and B testing different things.
yeah, yeah. No, no. I mean, that's actually still fascinating to hear your answer, regardless. And I'm just curious. What is it about the business now that you can't just rely on the kind of the referral generation tactics of the previous 16, 17, 18 years actually now, isn't it?
Well, it's because we're opening a location in a new state, in a new city where literally no one's heard of Discover Strength.
Right.
So you and I are recording this on a Friday. We opened a location this past Monday in Colorado. It's the first location we've ever had in Colorado. No one in Colorado has ever heard of Discover Strength. If you have, it was like pure luck that you had a friend that lived in Minnesota that worked out at one of our locations. And so we are starting from absolute scratch with, no referrals. Now, there's a few things that we're looking at doing to build that business faster, but we're definitely using traditional, digital, and I would say that we've been influenced by the Hormozi approach there. Now, I don't think he invented it, but it's very much a Hormozi approach, and I can comment on what that is if you want me to. But we have to use those tactics as well to get a few people in the door, and then those few people that are in the door, we should be giving remarkable workouts, and they should be telling their friends and family, and we should start earning referrals. And if we're not, something's wrong with the workout that we're actually giving. Now, let me mention this about Hormozi. I am obsessed with Alex Hormozi. I love him, but I don't know if Alex Hormozi knows this about everything he did in his gym launch business. Alex Hormozi is wonderful at scaling and growing the gym launch. And gym launch was a business that helped gym owners get customers, get new members into the gym. And so side note, Alex Hormozi is also obsessed with the product, with the service. He says your marketing doesn't suck. You don't need to improve your marketing. Your product sucks.
He's like, you need a better sandwich.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
and maybe the reason I love him saying that so much is that's what I've said for 18 years. And I've had every HIIT practitioner on earth look at me and say, "Hey, we got the workout down. Teach me the marketing." I'm like, you don't have the workout down. And I'm not putting down your workout, and I'm not putting down Ken Hutchins or whoever you learned it from. But by definition, if the business is not growing based on word of mouth, the product, the service is not good enough. So go to work on that. And that applies to every industry. And I think that's what Hormozi has done, is said that applies to every industry. Here's the fascinating, actually the ironic part of all of this is Hormozi built Gym Launch around gyms that have shitty services or products. And so he found a way to sell shitty services or products. Now, that wasn't his service or product, so he didn't have to worry about it. When he says make the product better, make the service better, what did he make better? He made Gym Launch better, but he actually never made the gym better. Now, it was beyond his scope to go into the gym and say, hey, this gym actually sucks. You got to improve the gym. Like he was not paid to do that. But I think that's what's so interesting is he's the one that's obsessed with having a great service or great product. And he built Gym Launch around gyms that do not have good services or good products. I just
Is
think
that
that
is that no, that's fascinating. Is that not subjective though, given that their markets were lower end? Most of those.
even lower end. When you walk into most of those gyms, you would say, whoa, this is dirty. Whoa, this is not a
Okay.
consistent experience. Whoa, this is experience roulette. It all depends on who's working today. Who did I actually interact with as an instructor, as a coach, based on what kind of service I got. Not well equipped, not wonderful interior designs. I mean, it was a hodgepodge of gym businesses. Now, if you look at the average health club in, let's just say, the US, the bigger health club companies have a lot more consistency, and they're on brand, and they're delivered, for that particular price point. And whether it's a Crunch Fitness, whether it's a Planet Fitness, a Lifetime Fitness, 24-hour fitness, these are well conceived concepts where the product and service is absolutely tailored toward the target market. It's well constructed. But most of these gym launch businesses were not that. They're just a guy or a gal that found some space, put some equipment in it, and said, "We're a gym. We kind of do some boot camps. We do some small group, etc."
Yeah. That's such a fascinating take. It makes a lot of sense to me because I've consumed everything that man's produced. I read Jim Launch Secrets, his book, which is fantastic. I mean, even if you disagree with a lot of it, which you probably will, talking to the audience now, it's still a great read and it's stuff that we can learn. And come to think of it, at no point does he really talk about a session, a workout, what a group workout looks like. What is that? How should the coach operate? What does the workout look like, etc. To your point. And yeah, like you're saying, all of the value is provided through things like systems for lead generation. So paid ads was their or is their go-to, and also retention and business models, right? Like pricing and packaging. But yeah, so I suspect you're right. Like their clients will get very little referrals, but they have so much coming in the front end, and maybe they improve retention. Well, I suppose they do improve retention because they've got good systems around that. And I know that they within Gym Launch they will test things around with the different clients to see what works best, and then create these laundry lists of bullets of processes for retention. But yeah, I mean,
And let me
yeah,
state
go
that a
ahead.
different way. The different way I can state it that's probably more clear is if Alex Hormozi, okay, if I got fired as the CEO of Discover Strength and he took over, or he took over for the perfect workout, or he took over for fill in the blank, someone in our space, right? He
Right.
would go to first and foremost on the workout. He would go to work on that. So it became very well known and famous for gym launch. That would not be his first focus. He understands the product and service is what matters. He would go to work on every aspect of the workout. And that's who he is as an entrepreneur. And it's been fun to listen to him talk about that in so many different industries.
Yeah, wow. No, I agree. And just to back up a second, you said that you were perhaps open to sharing some of those things that you're doing. I know I'm
Yeah,
trying
so,
to.
so
Yeah, go
our
ahead.
Hormozy approach in terms of our digital is, and this is very gym launch-esque, and I can state it so simply, it's your digital has to have a really big, compelling offer. So we hate discounts, but you still have to find a way to have an offer, and it's got to be a high ticket offer, right? Because you're spending a decent amount of money on this digital marketing. So the actual offer, the actual package, the actual purchase has to be pretty big ticket. So that's what you put on your digital. But the reality is not everyone's going to buy that. And that's what Hormozy says. That's what Gym Launch says. And that's, of course, what we've experienced is we have a great offer on the digital, but not everyone purchases that offer. Instead, what do? They go to your website to try to learn more. So as soon as you land on the website, I need to see another offer, but that offer has to be a totally different offer. And it's got to be a much lower ticket offer. And I think for our industry, the classic is free introductory workout. So now I can still take action on that offer. I can click, schedule a free introductory workout here. So it was the big ticket offer that was splashy on social media, on digital. All right. So whatever you're using it, whether it's Meta or digital, that compelled someone to go to the website. Okay. Just organically, they typed in the website, right? The URL, and then they converted on your offer, right? And then if they don't convert, we're capturing email. And the key here is we're not emailing them once or calling them once. We have an email drip campaign where we're continually either marketing to them, or we're just staying in front of them. It's a nurture campaign, or it's actually a sales campaign. So those are simply the three steps. Big ticket offer in your digital spend, get someone to your website and actually have an offer there that's much smaller for introductory workout. And then when you don't convert on that, you still have a drip campaign or a nurture campaign via email.
Yeah, and just on the email campaigns, I know you're largely inspired by Donald Miller, so audience can go and buy Marketing Made Simple. It's a great book for just understanding sequences for those. So just to clarify, you mentioned okay, you're leading in digital with, and again, if there's anything you can't mention, just say you're leading with a high ticket offer, right? So you're not leading with a free offer, a free introductory workout in digital advertising. You're leading with something else.
Yeah. From our experience as a free introductory workout, it's not compelling enough for
Wow.
someone to take action, to want to learn more. And this is the classic, you got to A and B test this nonstop. So we're constantly changing the offer, thinking about the offer, trying the offer in different markets and seeing, hey, what's going to lead to more visits to the website, introductory workouts, actual conversions. We even have people that will convert on that, but they come in for a free introductory workout and it never comes up. Like, so we thought, well, do we have to sell them that offer then when they come in? I mean, could we just start them as a normal client?
Mhm.
Uh, so, so let me just, the nuance of that offer is we don't like discounts. So you're never going to see an ad from us that says 30% off or 50% off, but maybe what we're doing ends up being a discount. Like we rather have you, if you work out this many times, we'll give you a few free workouts, right? Like I like free more than we like discount. I just don't like 30% off, 20% off. I don't like the word discount, but there's got to be a pretty compelling deal early on.
So just to clarify again, when you say you're leading with high ticket offer though, are we talking about you are leading with 500, $1,000 for an initial offer,
Yep.
which, and then obviously the kind of backup conversion is to free workout or a transitional CTA to get their email right on the website, etc. Oh, fascinating. Okay, but then obviously
And now
you might,
on that free
yeah,
workout on the website, we still want them to become a client right there, right? Like that's not
yeah,
just for email. You've done a wonderful job of creating really valuable content that someone wants to give their email for because they actually want that content. It's not
thanks to
BS.
you.
And I hate to say this, our most clicked on free asset, the one that works the best, is developing. It's something around developing six-pack
Of
abs.
course it is.
And I of course I just hate that, right? But that's what's working, and that's why you got to keep testing things. And when you actually click on that piece, it's a really good piece. It sounds clickbaity to all of your listeners. They're like, they get it, but it's would you actually get that resource? We're cutting through the BS in that resource, but it has to be something that's the consumer, the target market perceives as valuable.
I think I
But we're
remember it.
a website that we want them to schedule a free introductory
Right.
workout for.
I think I remember actually. Maybe it's an old version I remember, but it's quite funny because it's very brief, which is great because you just get to the point, and it's effectively, train your abs to muscular failure like once or twice a week, and then either have a caloric restriction in your diet. That's it, right? Like, so really interesting stuff. Okay, so just to clarify then, for maybe anyone that got lost there, and you can correct me, Luke. It's worth testing higher ticket offers, but the point here is whether it's $500 or $1,000 or beyond, it's got to be an incredible offer. In the words of using Hormozi's words, they got to feel stupid saying no, right? So it's got to be like 10x the value in that offer, right? And that's really key. So you've got to really think like, what would make this an absolute no-brainer? Is that fair to say in how you're thinking about it?
I would say yes, but I would also say it's kind of cover the cost of the digital spend, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
if someone converts on it, it's got to, like one person doing, one introductory workout and then doing three more workouts with you, that probably doesn't cover it. But if you have an offer that's going to compel them or basically force them to train for a couple months, then it's probably going to be worth it. You're going to produce a lot of revenue when you get a conversion.
It's fascinating. Yeah, I mean, it's just fascinating to hear you say this and to be testing this. And obviously, you're in new territory now, so you're trying different things out. And I can see the logic because it's like, well, if they spend $1,000 or what have you on a product, but then they come in for maybe they just go straight into their workouts. I'm sure you've got a system for that where you're meeting them, you're designing the workout around them. But then as they move on to a recurring monthly commitment, they're anchoring that against that initial price, right? Which is going to be less than, which is just going to, this is another Hormozy thing. At least that's where I first heard it, where you're more likely to retain that person, right, on a recurring monthly subscription because they're going to make that comparison to the initial offer.
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
that's
Yeah.
all that's all Hormozy, but I think Hormozy was dealing with a different target market.
Mhm.
Like our client is a little bit more affluent, and if we can
Right.
demonstrate value or deliver value in a few workouts, they're not like, oh, great, this is $4 less per session or $8 less per session. They're not concerned with it. Now, I don't mean that our client will just blow money or waste money, but we want to be premium in a premium. We want to create a premium brand, which means we need premium pricing, and our consumer, hopefully, if we do all that right, should not stress about the $3, the $5. So I'm sure Hormozy's psychology is correct there. We've just never applied that to the way we think about it.
Got it. Okay. So far less price sensitive target markets. There's less of a factor. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I get that. And just to highlight what you said there about having it's really important to have a premium price to communicate a product or service that is quote unquote good, right? And again, I'll probably embed it in the post because I don't want to spend too much time on it now. But I think it's in Offers in Alex Hormozi's book. Like this whole podcast is a huge advert for Alex Hormozi, isn't it? But there's a wonderful like diagram on how he thinks about pricing, which I just thought was fantastic. And it's it's a very good justification for why you should have higher prices and how that helps you, your business, and your customer. You're nodding away, Luke, which suggests that you probably know what I'm talking about. Yeah. All right. One other question actually is again, you've got, you're exploring new territories, and what's interesting is it sounds like from what you're saying that you're relatively unknown in some of these places, but Discover Strength will get to a point, if not already, where you have that kind of national brand presence, where that will get a lot easier for you. Have you got any idea of how you might measure that? And is there in your mind like maybe a threshold, like when we're at this many locations, then that's really going to start to help our, create more exponential growth in future franchises?
Yeah, I mean, we know that the best way to open a successful location in a market is to already have a successful location in that market. So you're actually earning referrals and there's just wonderful word of mouth. Let me tell you, Lawrence, that's the reason. That's one of the main reasons why I speak so much, right? Like I'm on a plane seemingly every 4 days speaking somewhere, because when we finally get to that market and open a location, I want the target market. I want someone in that market to say, I heard him speak 3 years ago. Wow, they opened a business here now. And that's long game thinking, right? Hey, we're gonna talk about Alex Hormozi again here. He has like revitalized everyone's interest in long game thinking. And he says the entrepreneur that wins is the one that has a longer time horizon. And I'm probably cherry picking all the Hormozi stuff that I like because I've always believed it, but I think the longer time horizon you have, the better. And so I've been fine planting those seeds for 6, 7, 8 years, knowing that we'll get to those markets and we'll already have a reputation as being experts and being evidence-based and all of it. So that's my hope, that long game time horizon helps us when we get to those markets. And then I don't know what's the certain number of locations that allows you to have automatic brand recognition. I think it's a lot more than we realize, because we have 13 locations, I think, in Minnesota right now. And I meet someone every day that's never heard of Discover Strength. And I'm like, how have you not heard of us? We're like everywhere, but that's, I mean, we have opportunities to continue to improve. So I don't know what that will look like as we get to different markets. I am really excited about testing. How do we enter a market and how do we market? And I'll tell you my big idea this week, if I can, on how we're going to some markets. So we do all of these different guerrilla marketing, local marketing tactics, join a BNI group, a chamber of commerce, set up a Discover Strength tent outside of your facility, hand out business cards, all of this stuff, digital campaigns. We have what's called a strip mall strategy, where when you get to that strip mall, you go to all the different tenants and you offer them, a certain number of free introductory workouts because you want to have relationships with them, all of this. And all of it works. But what I think works better than anything is if we can give great workouts and someone can go talk about that workout. And so my new idea, and no one should take this to the bank yet because we have no idea if it works, is we've played around with influencers in different markets where we'll have like 2 social media influencers. They come in for a certain number of workouts. They get those workouts free and they have to post a certain number of reels. And hopefully we're getting referrals and introductory workouts from it. Well, I thought, when we open a new location, instead of having like 3 clients on the schedule in that first week, why don't we try to have 40 clients on the schedule that are all influencers? Like rather than have, and here's why that's important. We're always going to have a general manager there that's on a salary. So we're paying them no matter how many clients come in. I'd rather have that general manager train 40 people that week, all free, that are all influencers, rather than train 5 people and sit outside in front of the tent and hand out business cards to people. If you can train 40 people, I'm 100% sure we're going to earn 8 referrals from that. And so that's what we're playing around with now, is getting the right influencers. When I say influencer, it can be a micro influencer. I mean, it doesn't be like, you don't have to have 500,000 followers. If you have a few thousand followers and you're really target market rich and your followers are probably our target market, and we say, hey, we'd love to give you 8 free workouts. You have to post 3 reels. We're going to, first of all, win you over probably as a paid client, but we're
Great
going to get some.
point.
So
Yeah, what a wonderful idea. Love to hear how that goes. I do remember actually, uh, I believe it was during 2020, we were in the thick of COVID and all the lockdowns. Weren't you doing similar stuff with reaching out to influencers? Maybe some of these influencers were actually former clients. I think one of them might be a former cheerleader for a sports team or something like that, and you were providing virtual workouts. And I thought you were doing some kind of influencer partnerships there. Is that true? And if so, can you speak on the results of that?
we did that on such a small scale. We did it
Okay,
literally with like 2 clients that had massive followers. And the reality is their followership probably weren't target market.
I
It
see.
was probably if they had 500,000 followers, it was 499,000 males that thought they were market. So
Yeah,
it's got to be a target market.
got it. Okay, interesting. Fascinating, Luke. It's funny. I've got all these questions, but I knew it was going to go like this, and that's absolutely fine. I guess one more question probably before we wrap up. What trends do you see as fitness business trends or fitness trends over the next 5 to 10 years? And are there any trends that suggest clients will want different things from their workout? And what do you think won't change?
First of all, that last question, that's the best question, right? Everyone always asks, what are the trends? What are the trends? What are the trends? And you probably know this, but the famous Jeff Bezos line is stop asking that question, right? Instead, you should say, what is not going to change? And I'm certain of it over the next 15 years. That's where you should build your business. And he says, I know that 15 years from now, customers are not going to say, I really wish things cost more, or I wish things would arrive at my door in slower time. So I know they're going to care about price and they're going to want things delivered quickly 15 years from now. I can build a business around that. So you asked a wonderful question. The 2 biggest trends right now in the fitness landscape as a whole, the health club, studio, boutique landscape, I'm actually going to say there's 3. The 3 are recovery. So every health club on earth is investing massive amounts of money in recovery. And every time we talk with a vendor, they're like, what are you doing for recovery? And we have to take the vendor by the shoulders and say, nothing. We are doing nothing. All we do is strength training. We're not going to do a recovery room that's dark, that has, massage beds that you lay in and, compression air sleeves that you're putting on your legs. We're not doing any of it, but that's the massive, massive trend in the health club world. And health clubs are so trend based, but every health club on earth is investing significant money into that. That's number 1. Number 2 is strength training. I mean, it is the biggest trend worldwide is everybody wants to strength train. And I haven't decided yet if that's good or bad for all of our businesses. I think it's probably good. People then know they need to strength train now. 15 years ago, we used to battle a client saying, you don't just need to do cardio. You got to strength train also. Now everyone knows they should strength train, but there's so much more strength training competition. Like when big health club operators in the US find out that we're focused on strength training and they look at pictures of our website and they say, but you're using all machines. That's not strength training. Because strength training means to most of these health clubs, it's all racks, like racks and barbells. And what we're seeing across all the big health clubs is they're taking out massive amounts of cardio and they're putting in racks everywhere. So I think HIIT practitioners have to be aware of that and say, okay, the world knows they need to strength train, but they're still strength training in a primitive way. And they're probably injuring people in the process. And we can continue to do what we do and do it better. So maybe the message is not just you need to strength train, but you have to strength train safely. You have to strength train in an evidence-based way. You have to strength train in a joint-friendly way, whatever your verbiage or your angle is. But that's the second biggest trend. And then, and you can interject here and go deeper on these. The third biggest trend is, and this is like a deep dive of what's going on in the business, is that studios and boutiques across the country are not making much money. And so if you're a listener here and you want to get to a new retail space and you're trying to sign a lease, landlords are afraid of fitness right now because we've had so many boutiques and studios fail. We've had so many boutiques and studios default on leases. And so we have a proliferation of studios and boutiques, but not many of them have economically valid or solid, not valid, solid models. And some of them are so trend-based that the trend is come and gone. So potentially, you're aware of this, Lawrence, but potentially if you've been a high intensity interval training concept, whether it's rowing, whether it's sprinting on a treadmill, whether it's doing a kettlebell and then sprinting on a treadmill and then doing a jumping jack, if all you talked about was high intensity interval training, you're struggling right now because largely Peter Attia is telling everybody, other people are saying it too, to do zone 2 training. So right now, I mean,
Right.
5 years ago, all anyone talked about was interval training, interval training, interval training. And that meant interval training, running, biking. Literally, I just saw a Carol bike ad that said, we have a zone 2 option. We have a zone 2 option because they know everyone wants zone 2. And so, man, that's so different than just 5 years ago. And so we hear from high intensity interval training studios, not HIIT studios, but HIIT studios all the time saying, hey, the trend is come and gone. People don't want HIIT anymore.
Wow.
So one of the reasons that studios and boutiques are struggling, no listener should think, oh, people don't want to work out in 2,000 square foot or 1,500 square foot spaces with great coaches and instructors. I think they do. I think maybe HIIT is a little bit less popular right now. And we
Okay.
see this
Got
on
it.
a large scale. We see this in like Orange Theory Fitness, and we see this in smaller concepts that only have 3 or 4 as well. So I definitely think that's a trend. Then let me just restate the trend. The trend is that studios and boutiques, many of them are really, really struggling.
Wow. It's fascinating. Yeah. And you just have to have an incredibly good business case. You have to take that very seriously. When we're trying to negotiate a lease, right? You really got to show that landlord that the ROI is there and the security is there, right? So that just puts more onus on you to do that. Just to go deeper, I guess, on one aspect, what about in terms of trends that suggest clients will want different things from their workout? So how, if at all, do you see that session experience changing and evolving over time?
Yeah, I don't want to be closed-minded when I answer this. I just don't think that's changing. Okay. Now, I do think, and maybe this is controversial, I do think we still have to educate the client while we're doing these things because whatever the trend is, whatever they're hearing on every podcast they listen to, whatever they're reading about, that becomes the norm. And if you're not doing the norm, they wonder, are you not informed? Are you
Mhm.
not aware that this is now the norm? Are you not up to date? Now, up to date to me means, have you read the scientific evidence? Up to date to our consumer means, have you listened to the Huberman podcast, right? And I'm like, God,
Such a great point.
so we have to be aware that our target market is listening to all these podcasts. They're reading Peter Attia. I tell our trainers every day, our client reads way more about exercise than you do. And about exercise and wellness as a whole and listens to way more podcasts. Now we read more scientific, publications, but they're listening to this stuff nonstop. They're just into it. And they're consumers of media. They're consumers of this information. So if we don't speak to why we're doing what we're doing and why we're not doing some of the other stuff, I think we have a potential. The consumer is going to lose confidence in what we're doing. So just explaining why you're doing what you're doing and why you're not doing other things is the most important. But what we're actually doing, I don't think changes. I just
Mm.
don't think. And I'm going to quote Jim Flanagan. He says, "Well, muscle function doesn't change. It literally hasn't changed. So the requirements for a great workout are the same today as they were in 1980 and 1970. And so, there's going to be some new scientific evidence that says, hey, maybe this works a little bit better than this. And we should probably speak to the trends, but the foundations, the workout just don't have to change. What changes is the benefit of the workout, right? In 1972, Nautilus machines were awesome, but we just did not know in 1972 that strength training was a great way to mitigate cardiovascular disease risk, okay? In 1980, strength training was effective. We just didn't know that isometric holds were the best way to reduce systolic blood pressure. We didn't have any evidence of that. So now we have all this evidence that we can actually share with a client. And, my controversial opinion is most of the people in the world of fitness don't actually know anything about fitness. And so you can't speak to these things. And I'll pick on high intensity training practitioners. I love high intensity training practitioners. Most of them don't know what the real benefits of exercise are. We just keep reciting the same things over and over and over and over, but we have to look at the latest research to understand what those benefits are. Now, let me be clear.
Yeah.
HIIT practitioners know how to deliver the workout. They just don't know what to expect of the workout. I mean, tell me exactly what's going to happen to blood pressure following different types of strength training combined with aerobic exercise, strength training that's isometric versus full range of motion. Tell me exactly what's going to happen around cognitive function. Tell me exactly what's going to happen around if I include aerobic exercise with my strength training and my risk mitigation on all-cause mortality. Those are the things that I think we have to know to be able to share with our client to make sure that we are perceived as experts.
Yeah, great points.
Delivery of the workout, I don't think changes. So.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So yeah, as more and more research surfaces to probably, and maybe obviously it's be slightly biased, but this has been the pattern, right? Is to confirm that what we're doing is the most efficacious thing you can do in terms of exercise. I mean, we're still only scratching the surface on a lot of this stuff, right? Myokines. And so, papers are coming out every month to explore these benefits further. And there's so much we just don't know. It's exciting. So yeah, but it's interesting actually what you said there about your target market. I would have thought only a cohort would be into it, but are you saying that Mary and Micah are obsessed with like Peter Attia, Andrew Huberman, those types of podcasts, and David Sinclair and all the books about longevity and all that stuff?
I would make a guess right now that the commercially popular ones, like Peter Attia jumps out to me, commercially popular. Huberman is commercially popular.
Yes.
I would have our client base. I'm going to guess that 25% of our clients have read Peter Attia's book. And that's super high number.
Significant.
Yeah. And I would say in their weekly podcast lineup, every one of them are listening to a podcast about health, wellness, fitness, something along those lines, which of course, there's not many good podcasts around exercise out there. Frankly, you have the one podcast and now you have more of a business focus that had really reputable exercise information. I mean, I don't have a single podcast that I listen to that's about exercise. I mean, yours is the closest thing. And every once in a while you'll have someone talk about exercise, but it just doesn't exist. And maybe
you have your podcast.
Well, I don't count because I'm literally recording a podcast, but like I'm a runner. I listen to a lot of running podcasts. I literally listen to 12 running podcasts a week and they're awesome, right? We just don't have great strength training or exercise podcasts. And I could be naive. I could be missing out on some of them, or you have to listen to all of the content to get 5% of actual good content.
I don't think you're too far wrong there. Yeah, fascinating. I guess I just felt that based on what I understood of your target market avatar, that they just wouldn't make time for that stuff. I thought they're so busy with, I don't know, families, other extracurricular stuff. And then they've got very demanding jobs where they're working, 100-hour weeks or what have you as attorneys and that type of thing. But that being said, I remember you saying that a lot of your clients are not just strength training with you. I mean, they're doing other stuff. They're doing Pilates, yoga, and other activities. So it makes sense for them to be invested in, how are these things benefiting me? I've started doing sauna after my workouts. I'll wrap after this, Luke. I've just seen the time.
I have time. This is great.
Okay. I've been doing sauna 3 times a week for 20 minutes or trying to achieve that after my workouts, which by the way, you've ever done a sauna straight after a really intense HIIT workout? It is hard because I realize I'm sitting there and my heart rate is still really elevated and it's very uncomfortable. And I got some dude next to me and he's like super chill. And I'm thinking, how are you so calm? Are you not? And I've realized it's because he's been on the treadmill for 20 minutes doing barely anything. Whereas I've actually been going to muscle failure on like every major muscle group. Anyway, so it occurred to me though, as I'm sitting in that sauna today, I'm like, yeah, I want to go actually read a little bit more about how this is benefiting me. So I can see how they're motivated to do that. It's fascinating. Luke, this has been amazing. I love every podcast we do together, but I just really enjoyed this. And hopefully we could do a part 2 to cover the rest of the questions at some point, because there's more really great questions to cover. People want to learn more about you, discoverstrength.com, obviously to learn about Discover Strength services. And then people potentially interested in a franchise, discoverstrengthfranchise.com, isn't it? And what if they want to connect with you on Instagram? Do you remember that handle? I know I'll constantly ask you that.
Okay. Luke Carlson, 3070.
Okay, great. All right. So that's Luke on Instagram. And for everyone listening, look at the show notes for this episode. Please go to highintensitybusiness.com and search for episode 471. And until next time, thank you very much for listening. Hey, it's Lawrence again. Before you go, I have something special for those looking to accelerate their HIIT business.
Would you like to know how to generate a flood of leads for free? Download our exclusive Build a Referral Machine playbook. It's a concise guide packed with proven strategies from Luke Carlson, CEO of Discover Strength, a fast-growing hit franchise. Clients in our Hit Business membership using these referral tactics have added 20 to 40 new clients, transforming their businesses dramatically. In this playbook, you'll uncover 4 dynamic referral tactics that you can implement right now to drive leads. Plus, when you download the guide, you'll gain access to invaluable resources to expand your business, like ready-to-use sales presentations, a guide for attracting top-notch trainers, a checklist for nailing your sales process, and so much more. And there's a bonus. Subscribe today to ensure you don't miss out on exclusive opportunities like live group calls with hit experts. Plus, you have the chance to contribute questions for our interactive Q&A blog posts and podcasts, where we directly address your queries with industry experts. These special events are scheduled periodically, and as a subscriber, you'll be the first to know when they happen. Just visit highintensitybusiness.com/ref, that's REF, short for referrals, highintensitybusiness.com/ref, or click the link available where you're watching or listening to this, drop in your email, and you'll get instant access to all these resources today.